Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and very late in sharing this video. However, I am kind of the theory that one, you could use the idea for next year, and two, these cards do not have to be specifically Mother's Day cards. I would switch out the inside greeting to happy birthday or thinking of you or etc. So, sharing it anyway. I've been sick, my kids have been sick, it's just been a gong show. So, I saw something on a couple different people's videos, so I'm not sure who first ever shared this idea, but I'm using a background stamp from Simon Says Stamp. This is the gorgeous Cora background, and I have it in my Misty, and I have the stamp lined up on the lid, and then you ink it up, press the paper onto it, and then use your Misty upside down. Seriously mind-blowing. Because that's my only real peeve with the Misty and using background stamps is it's obviously very hard to see exactly where you're going to stamp. I've always brought the paper to the stamp, having my background stamp, facing up on the desk. And but then I like the Misty for background stamps because you're more guaranteed to get an even stamping impression, but you can't see. So doing it this way is perfect. So I've removed the foam insert from the Misty because this is a rubber and cling background stamp. I'm inking up the stamp, and then I am pressing my, this is Bristol smooth cardstock that I treated with my anti-static powder tool. And you can see I bring the bottom of the Misty up over instead of closing the lid. That way it keeps my paper in place. And now I can flip it back over, press down on that background stamp, and get a perfectly impressed image onto my paper. Brilliant. I wish I could claim credit for this idea. Totally can't. I never would have thought of it ever. But now that I've done this, it's oh, I love it. Love it. So I did this twice. I stamped and then heat embossed with some white embossing powder this background image onto 2 pieces of Bristol smooth cardstock that I had cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And then melted all of that at the same time with my heat tool. Got my heat tool good and hot first. And then I wanted to do a little bit of experimenting. I have a whole bunch of Simon Says Stamp inks here that I've been slowly building up my stash with. And these are not dye-based inks, I guess you would say. They don't claim to be as such. I was curious though as to whether or not I could kind of color with them. I have had other dye-based inks, and I'm not talking about distress inks, in the past that, you could do some more watercolors type of techniques. And a lot of the inks on the market now, like these ones, the Simon Says, My Favorite Things inks, Hero Arts inks, I think they're all similar formulations. So they are more water resistant, so you could stamp the images and then watercolor over them and the ink isn't going to smear. So that right there told me these are not dye-based inks. They're not really going to react with water. However, I was able to smush the ink pads onto my acrylic block and then pick up the color with a water brush and apply the color. I don't see getting very good results, say trying to blend or to do larger areas with them in this sort of a way, because they have a funny reaction with water. You won't really be able to see it on camera, but in person, I could see it. It's really hard to explain. But it worked for this. I was able to just kind of pick up the color and apply it where I wanted. So I kind of colored this background like a coloring book. And then I set that one aside. And then for this one, I was I already kind of knew this wasn't going to work, but I had to try it. So I smushed the ink pad onto just a piece of acetate. And I sprayed it with water, and even when I sprayed it with water, it immediately went funny. These react funny with water because they're not meant to be water soluble. They're meant to be more water resistant. And they do. That's actually quite true. They get grainy, I guess is a way to kind of explain it. But I wanted to try this to see if I could get, that splatter effect that we get with distress inks that is so much fun. And as I'm doing this, I was oh no, this is not working. The ink just doesn't want to show up as vibrantly. It was weird. And I was great, I don't really want to waste this. Again, I'm not sure you can see it on camera, but it gets grainy because it's just not meant to be used this way. And as I'm doing this, I'm this I have in real time. Everything else I kind of sped up. But I was I wonder if I can salvage this because this is just not going to work. It's just going to look gross. So since it was Bristol Smooth and has that coating, this ink hasn't been able to soak in or anything much. So I grabbed my little piece of paper towel here and I quickly wiped up all of this ink. It left a little bit of residue, but that's okay because instead I decided I'm just going to sponge these colors onto the background, which These inks are beautiful for sponging, especially on Bristol Smooth. Like, they blend so nicely, and stamping them and sponging them, they smooth out as they dry more. So they just go on like butter. So I sponged the ink over using the same colors, and I was using Rose Apple, Velvet Orchid, and Winter Sky from Simon. And I started with that Rose Apple again, so it completely covered that little bit of a mess I had made, trying to be all splotchy and whatever. And instead just sponged on the inks, and then I sponged on the Velvet Orchid, and then I sponged the Winter Sky around the edges and kind of let them all blend into each other. And gave it a totally different look. Using the exact same inks, but in 2 different ways, on the exact same background stamp, created 2 completely different looks. So it was kind of fun to experiment. So once I was done with all of that, I die cut both of these with the largest Simon Says stitched rectangle die, and the Big Mom wafer die as well. And I made sure not to lose the center of the O there. And then I just cut down a piece of acetate sheet, transparency, etc. I just cut it down so that I can go behind the die cut words. And then I'm just using my little Xyron tape runner to run adhesive all the way around, right around the letters here, and then trying to add little dots of adhesive to the center areas, and especially to these little tiny areas that stick up in the M there, because I want to make sure it's pressed down into that acetate. And then just remove any excess with my fingers, any little dots that got onto my craft mat. And then I can adhere that acetate there to the back of the word. And then I'm going to use the adhesive again onto the center of the O there. And I found it was easy to line it up on my grid mat here. And I used that, I made sure the center line was running like right down the center of the O. And then that way I could line up the center of that O really easily and just press that into place. So I did that with both of these cards. Really simple. And then I grabbed my foam tape, and I'm going to double it up here. So I cut a really long length of it and then doubled it up and pressed that together. Just makes my life easier, so you don't have to go around twice. You can do this all in one step. And then I created a window around each die cut word. I didn't see any point in only doing the perimeter of this piece. You could if you wanted, because then you'd have more space for the sequins and that to shake. However, then you would need to use a lot more sequins. So I just created a window directly around these letters, and then filled in the extra areas with some more foam tape, just so that it doesn't become like pushed down or anything like that if you want to send this through the mail, etc. So did that with both pieces, and then I trimmed down just some white cardstock, because I'm going to use that to back these windows in a minute, because that'll make it easier to line these up on my cards when I'm done. And then I pulled out the Pastel Paradise Sequin Mix. These are by Little Things from Lucy's Cards. I hoard her mixes like crazy. I buy them, I put them in my little containers, and then I never use them because they're so pretty. But I went through them when I was doing this, and then this color mix I thought went really nicely with the colors I used on the front. I was flying by the seat of my pants when I was creating these. Like, nothing was planned out ahead of time. So I was liberal with these and used up quite a bit just to give them some shake and some color. So I sprinkled those in, and then I removed the foam tape, and I'm going to press these pieces of white cardstock right on the back of the windows I created. Then this way I'm able to flip these over when the time comes and adhere them to my card front, and I'm not trying to like bring the card front to these backgrounds, etc., and trying to line things up blindly. So got that foam tape peeled off, and then I can finish off the second little window here. And then I'm going to go on and finish the card bases themselves, which I used some pre-scored Simon Says 120 pound note cards. So I have some of those in my stash, so I pulled out a couple of those, and I pulled out my Misty again. I'm going to remove that background stamp, and then I'm going to put the foam insert back into my Misty, because now I'm going to be using clear stamps. And lined up, this is the Happy Mother's Day sentiment from the Best Mom Ever stamp set. And like I said, you could totally use a happy birthday sentiment, or just a thinking of you sentiment, like anything really. Like, this could be used all year round, you don't just have to send cards to your mother just on Mother's Day. There are other occasions, and just because. So I inked up the stamp with those same inks, just holding the stamp like on an angle and inking it up so that I'm only inking up certain areas and letting the colors kind of blend into each other, and ended up doing it twice because I didn't stamp it perfectly the first time. Plus it just saturates the ink a little bit more. And like I said, these colors smooth out as they dry, so they're just nice and blended. And I did that to both of the card bases, and then I flipped it over so I have the back of the card, what will be the back of the card facing me. And there's this round Best Mom Ever stamp, and I just thought that would be cute to stamp on the back of the card. So I inked that up with the Rose Apple ink and did that to both cards as well. So easily, it was easy to make 2 cards at once with this, even though they're like different looking cards with all the same supplies. And then I'm going to use my Teflon bone folder to press down the folds on these. But then I realized I had smeared some ink because I'd got some of the Rose Apple ink on my fingers, and then I smeared it onto the card. But I used my little, this Tombow Mono eraser. It is fabulous for this, especially on this cardstock because it's such a heavyweight, smooth cardstock. I just had to rub it basically in a circular motion, and I was able to completely remove the ink that I'd smeared on these card fronts. So once I had that done, I can peel off the remaining foam tape after I've pressed the fold on those cards. Remove the foam tape, added a little bit more of that little Xyron adhesive, and now I can line up these shakers onto the card bases here and then press them into place. And that finished off these cards. I decided not to add any more embellishments or anything else, just to keep like the shaker as the main focus. So once both these were made, I went through my stash as well and found a couple envelopes that I thought kind of went nicely too with these colors. And it was the, I think Sea Breeze and Audrey Blue shimmer, the shimmer envelopes. They have like just a nice sheen to them and they're just so pretty. So I matched those up with these cards and that finished them off. So I've got these fun little shaker cards. It makes, you know, it's always the noise that's just the best part. So they're so pretty. I love these sequins. Anyway, that's my cards for today. If you're interested in any of the supplies used, I will have a link below the video to my blog post and links to all the supplies used in the description box below the video. So check that out if you are interested. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, thumbs upping, and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.